For 32 years, Bianca, believed my family saw me as the strong, dependable one, always there to pick up the pieces. That was my fundamental lie. The truth shattered one afternoon in my quiet kitchen as I opened the 40-second wedding RSVP, each one a polite decline. My mother, Diane, the woman who had always orchestrated our lives, had moved my sister's 30th birthday party to my wedding date, then personally called every relative, telling them my wedding was postponed. Postponed? I hadn't postponed anything. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My wedding date erased, my family absent, all within a single week. My mother, sitting in her floral blouse, likely planning Megan's next big event, had no idea the quiet, competent daughter she'd always overlooked was about to expose her deepest betrayal. Before I tell you what happened when they saw me, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. The Overton family had a hierarchy, and it was never subtle. My mother, Diane, ran the house like a production. Every holiday, every milestone, every Sunday dinner, Diane was the director, and my sister Megan was always the lead. My brother Tyler got the supporting role, the charming one, the baby, and me. I was the crew, the one who showed up, did the work, and never expected applause. My parents divorced when I was 11. Dad moved to Oregon with a woman named Pam. He sent birthday cards the first 2 years, then he stopped. Mom blamed me for it. She never said it plainly, but the message was clear. You look just like your father, she would say when I did something that annoyed her. Same eyes, same stubborn mouth. Megan was 3 years older and had inherited everything Diane valued. Confidence, volume, presence. She filled a room. I just happened to be in it. Tyler was 4 years younger, the accident baby, and the family treated him accordingly. He could do no wrong. He just needed a little more time, a little more patience, a little more money. My mother once forgot my 16th birthday. She remembered 3 days later. I know because she called to apologize while I could hear Megan's voice in the background planning a shopping trip. Mom said she had been busy. She did not say with what. She never forgot Megan's birthday. Not once. I learned early that in the Overton house, being competent was the fastest way to become invisible. The louder you needed help, the more attention you received. And I had stopped asking for help by the time I was 13. I left home at 18 with a scholarship and 2 suitcases. State University, computer science major. Nobody drove me to campus. Nobody helped me unpack. I worked 2 jobs through college, tutoring math on weekday evenings and stocking shelves at a grocery store on weekends. My mother called once that first semester. She asked if I could come home for Megan's engagement party to Kevin. I said I had exams. She said, Megan will be disappointed. I did not point out that Megan had not called me herself. I graduated with a 3.9 GPA and 0 debt. Moved into a shared apartment in the city with a classmate. Got hired at a mid-sized software company within 2 months. Worked my way from junior developer to senior engineer in 4 years. I was good at building things quietly. It was the only skill my family had ever taught me. I met Ethan Overton at Tech Conference in 2019. He was presenting a product demo. I was debugging a client issue on my laptop in the back row. He asked me if his presentation was boring. I told him his database architecture needed work. He laughed. We had coffee after. Ethan was like me. Quiet, focused, allergic to drama. He had grown up in a stable 2-parent household in Vermont. And when I described my family situation, he listened without trying to fix it. That was rare. On our 5th date after I had laid out the full Overton dysfunction, he said 4 words that no one in my family had ever said. They don't deserve you. He was not trying to be romantic. He said it the way you state a fact. And I believed him, because he had no reason to lie. Ethan proposed in October. Simple. A walk along the river, a ring he designed himself, and a question I answered before he finished asking it. We set the wedding for March 15th. I called my mother to share the news. She picked up on the 4th ring. Mom, Ethan and I are getting married. March 15th. There was a pause. Then that's nice, honey. Listen, Megan just booked a venue for her 30th. The Monarch downtown? Can you believe it? 300 guests. I said congratulations. Asked if she had heard what I said about the wedding. She said of course she had, and she was happy for me. I made 42 save-the-date cards by hand. Cream-colored cardstock. My handwriting on each one. I addressed them to every aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandparent I could think of. I mailed them on a Tuesday. 2 weeks later, Megan posted on Instagram. Her 30th birthday party, March 15th, custom invitations, DJ, catering. Theme Megan's golden era. I called Mom. Megan knew my wedding was March 15th. Honey, Megan's been planning this for months. She can't change the venue. You're flexible. You always have been. That sentence, I had heard versions of it my entire life. You are flexible, Bianca. You understand, Bianca. You are the strong one, Bianca. What they meant was you are the one we do not have to consider. The RSVPs started coming back within a week. Every single one declined. My aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my grandmother. 42 cream-colored envelopes sent. 42 answers returned. Not one said yes. I sat at my kitchen table with the stack of returned RSVPs. 42 envelopes. I opened them one by one. Aunt Linda. So sorry, sweetheart. Megan's party has been on the calendar forever. You can always do it another day, right? Uncle Frank. We will try to make it up to you.
No explanation.
Cousin Harper. Mom said your wedding was postponed. Are you doing it next month instead? I stopped at that one. Postponed. I had not postponed anything. I checked 3 more cards. 2 of them mentioned a postponement. One said they heard the venue fell through. I called Aunt Linda. Linda, who told you my wedding was postponed. A pause. Your mother called last week. She said you were pushing the date back because of some scheduling issue. My mother had called every single relative and told them the wedding was not happening on March 15th. I did not scream. I did not cry. I set the phone down on the table and looked at the pile. 42 cards. 0 family. The only person who RSVP'd yes was Kim, my best friend since college, the woman who had seen me at my lowest and never once suggested I should try harder with my family. Rachel did not wait for a card. She called the day I told her the date and said, I will be there. What should I wear? I stopped calling after the 28th RSVP. There were 42 cards. I did not need the last 14 to understand. My mother had not chosen Megan's party. She had erased my wedding. There is a difference between being second and being deleted. Ethan came home at 9 o'clock that night. He found me sitting on the couch with the envelopes in a pile on the coffee table. The apartment smelled like the tea I had made 3 hours ago and never drank. He sat down next to me, picked up one envelope, read it, set it back. What do you want to do? He asked. Not cancel it. Not confront them. Not I'll handle this. Just the question that mattered. I want to marry you on March 15th, I said. I don't care where. Then we marry on March 15th. He pulled me into his shoulder, and we sat like that for a while, not talking. The pile of envelopes sat on the table like a verdict. Ethan's phone rang around 10 o'clock. His co-founder, Marcus. I could hear Marcus's voice through the speaker. Something about paperwork, filings, a timeline. Ethan stepped into the bedroom and closed the door. When he came back, he looked equal parts exhausted and electric. Everything okay? I asked.
Yeah.
Marcus says the paperwork is filed. 6 weeks, maybe 7. 6 weeks until what? He smiled, the kind of smile that holds a secret. I'll tell you when it's real. Right now, let's focus on March 15th. I did not press him. Ethan never made promises he could not keep, and he never shared news until it was certain. That was one of the reasons I trusted him. In a family where words meant nothing, I had married a man whose words meant everything. I cleaned up the envelopes that night, put them in a shoebox, placed the shoebox on the top shelf of the closet. Then I went to bed. March 15th, 7:45 in the morning. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror in an $89 dress I had ordered online 3 weeks earlier. White, simple, knee-length. It fit well enough. Ethan wore his navy suit, the one he bought for investor meetings. He looked handsome, nervous, happy. Rachel arrived at 7:30 with a bouquet she had picked up from a bodega on the way. Daisies and baby's breath. She was wearing a blue dress and crying before we even left the apartment.
"Stop," I said.
"I can't help it. You look beautiful." "It's a courthouse, Rachel. It's your wedding." She was right.
It was.
The judge's chambers smelled like coffee and printer ink. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs along the wall. The ceremony lasted 8 minutes. The judge read the vows. We repeated them, and at 8:03 in the morning, I became Bianca Overton legally and permanently. Rachel cried through the entire thing. I did not. We took photos on the courthouse steps. Rachel held the bodega bouquet and snapped pictures on her phone. A stranger walking by offered to take one of all 3 of us. I still have that photo framed in my bedroom. 3 people, one of them sobbing. By 8:15, we were eating breakfast tacos in the parking lot, sitting on the hood of Ethan's car.
It had the best morning of my life.
That evening, I checked Instagram. Megan's birthday party was in full swing. Balloons, a 3-tier cake, a DJ, 40-plus guests in cocktail dresses. Mom had given a toast. I saw the clip. "To my beautiful firstborn," she said, "the light of our family." I closed the app. I did not post anything about my wedding. There was nobody left to tell. The morning after my wedding, I woke up at 6:12. Ethan was already gone. Early meeting at the office, something about a pre-filing review. I checked my phone. No messages from my family. 0. Not a text, not a voicemail, not even a missed call. The family group chat had one new message from the night before. A photo of Megan's birthday cake posted by Mom. Caption: "What a night." I stared at it for a long time. 40 people had celebrated my sister's 30th birthday. 0 people from my family had acknowledged that I got married. The group chat was the proof. Not of what they had done, but of what I had never been. I got up, made coffee, sat at my laptop. I opened a new document and typed the title, Declaration of Financial Independence. I did not know the exact wording yet. I just knew I needed it to exist. Something formal. Something with weight. Something that said in writing what I had been too afraid to say out loud for 32 years. I am not your emergency fund, your backup plan, or your flexible option. At 9 o'clock, I called Rachel. I need a lawyer's name. Someone who handles family civil matters. Not divorce. More like formal boundary documentation. I'll text you someone by noon. At 2 o'clock in the morning that night, my phone buzzed. Tyler. "Hey sis, congrats," or whatever. "Hey, you still at Chase Bank, right? Can you check something for me? It's not a big deal, just a balance thing." I read the message twice. My brother, who had not come to my wedding, who had not said the word married, was texting me at 2 o'clock in the morning about bank accounts. I did not respond. 42 saved the date cards. 0 family members at my wedding. And now my own brother was texting me at 2 o'clock in the morning about bank accounts. At that point, I had 2 choices. Keep hoping they would change, or start building something they could not take from me. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments. 3 weeks passed. The silence from my family was total. No card, no call. Not even a text that said, "Sorry, we missed it." In the Overton family, silence was the loudest punishment. Except this time, the silence was not a punishment. It was just indifference. They had not bothered to be angry. They had simply not noticed. I used those 3 weeks. While Ethan worked 14-hour days at the office preparing for something he still would not name, I built my exit. The lawyer Rachel recommended was named David Flores.
Quiet, precise, no nonsense.
He listened to my situation for 45 minutes and then said, "You don't need a restraining order. You need a declaration." We drafted it together. The Declaration of Financial Independence. 1 page, notarized, crystal clear. It stated that I, Bianca Overton, would not co-sign any loan for any member of my immediate or extended family, would not provide monetary gifts exceeding $100, would not bail out any debt, consumer, gambling, or otherwise, would not serve as financial guarantor, would not lend money against future earnings or assets. David asked if I was sure. I said I had been sure since the 28th RSVP. He notarized it on a Wednesday. I signed my name in black ink and watched him press the seal into the paper. It felt like the first official document of my real life. I put the letter in my desk drawer. For copies. One for each member of my family. I did not know when I would need them. I just knew I would. 3 weeks of silence. 3 weeks of building. And somewhere in downtown Manhattan, a clock was ticking towards something none of us could have predicted. April 5th, a Tuesday. The day everything shifted. Ethan's company, the startup he had co-founded 3 years earlier with Marcus, the one that had burned through 2 rounds of funding and 3 office spaces, went public. The IPO opened at $14 per share and closed at $19. Total company valuation, $50 million. Ethan was the co-founder and chief technology officer. He held roughly 8% of the company. On paper, by the time the markets closed that Tuesday afternoon, his stake was worth just over $4 million. I watched from my desk at the company's engineering floor. I had been employee number 7, hired 18 months before the IPO. I had my own small equity stake. Not millions, but enough to change our lives. The office erupted. People cheered, hugged, took selfies with the stock ticker on the break room TV. Marcus popped champagne. Ethan found me at my desk. He looked dazed. "It's real," he said. "It's real. What do you want to do tonight?" I thought about it.
Thai food.
Our apartment. Just us. He grinned. Done. That night we sat on our second-hand couch eating pad thai from containers, watching the financial news coverage on mute. $4 million in equity, a $50 million company. And we were eating $12 takeout in a 1-bedroom apartment. We should probably look at houses. Ethan said. I already have a list. He laughed. He should not have been surprised. I had been researching neighborhoods since Marcus first mentioned the IPO timeline. That was who I was. Competent, prepared, flexible. Nobody in my family had any idea what had just happened. And I had no plans to tell them. The article came out 4 days after the IPO. A local tech blog published a profile. Meet the team behind the $50 million startup that just went public. Ethan's photo was featured. Full name, title, company history. A former college classmate shared the article on LinkedIn. Then a colleague from my old company reposted it. Then someone tagged Ethan on Facebook. The chain reaction took less than 48 hours. Megan saw it first. I know because she screenshotted the article and posted it to the family group chat. The same chat where no one had mentioned my wedding. The same chat where Mom had posted Megan's birthday cake photo with the caption, "What a night." Megan's message, "Did you guys know about this?" Bianca's husband? Aunt Linda replied, "Wait. What? Uncle Frank? That Ethan? The quiet one?" Tyler, 3 laughing emojis and a money bag. Mom, what? Let me call her. I watched the messages scroll in real time. The family group chat that I had muted on the morning after my wedding was suddenly the most active it had been in months. 27 messages in 90 minutes. Every single one about money. Not one of them started with congratulations on the IPO. Not one said, "How are you?" They went from zero awareness to full financial interest in the time it took to read a tech blog. My phone lit up. Mom calling. Then again. Then a third time. A fourth. I let it ring. I was sitting in our apartment watching the screen pulse with her name. Diane Overton. Diane Overton. Diane Overton. On the 5th call, I picked up.
Bianca, honey.
That word. Honey. She had not called me honey since I was 12. Mom. How are you, sweetheart? How's married life? I've been meaning to call. Things have just been so crazy with Tyler and the house and everything. She did not mention the wedding she missed. She did not apologize for the birthday party. She did not acknowledge the 42 RSVPs. She skipped straight past all of it like it was traffic she could merge around.
Fine, Mom.
Good.
Good.
So, I saw something online about Ethan's company. That's wonderful. Your father's side of the family always had that business sense. I always knew you'd do well. She had never said that before. Not once. In 32 years, Diane Overton had never once credited me with potential. Now she was rewriting history in real time, attaching herself to a success she had no part in. Mom, Why are you calling? A pause. The kind of pause that has rehearsal behind it. Actually, honey, I need to talk to you about something. Tyler's been having some issues, financial issues. It's nothing major, but it's been weighing on all of us.
Can we meet?
As a family? Somewhere we can sit down and talk like adults? I let the silence hold for 3 seconds. When? This weekend? Your place? We're moving soon. I'll send you the new address. Moving? Where? You'll see when you get there. I gave her a date and a time and hung up. She snorts, had called me honey 4 times in 2 minutes. The last time she used that word with any regularity, I was in middle school and she needed me to babysit Tyler. Nothing had changed. We closed on the house 11 days after the IPO. $3.8 million. Modern farmhouse on 2 acres, 20 minutes outside the city. 5 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room, an open kitchen that could seat 12. We paid using a combination of savings and proceeds from a pre-IPO secondary share sale that Ethan had quietly arranged 6 months earlier. It was not reckless. It was planned. The numbers worked because we had spent 3 years living in a 1-bedroom apartment saving 60% of our combined income. I walked through the empty rooms on the first day. My footsteps echoed. Sunlight came through the windows in long rectangles on the hardwood floor. 5 bedrooms for 2 people who had spent their entire relationship in 900 square feet. I placed one item in the house before any furniture arrived. The marriage certificate.
Framed.
Simple gold frame. Courthouse seal visible in the lower corner. I hung it on the wall just inside the front entryway at eye level. Anyone walking through the door would see it before they saw anything else. $27 for the certificate, $12 for the frame. The most expensive piece of paper in a $3.8 million house. Not because of what it cost, but because of what it meant. I texted Mom the new address. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and see you Saturday. $3.8 million, 5 bedrooms. And the first thing I hung on the wall was a piece of paper from the courthouse that cost $27. I stood in the entryway and looked at it. My name, Ethan's name, the date, March 15th. The Snorts Day 40 people chose a birthday party over this. 2 days before the family meeting, Rachel sent me a link. You need to see this, she texted. No context, just a URL. It led to a gambling forum. Anonymous posts, user handles, no real names. But Rachel was a data analyst. She had found Tyler's profile through a chain of breadcrumbs I would never have thought to follow. His username was a variation of his Xbox gamertag. His post history was a spreadsheet of debt. I read for an hour. He owed money to 3 separate sources, online poker platforms, a sports betting app, a private loan from someone he referred to only as D. He had borrowed from Mom $45,000 out of her retirement account, $20,000 from Megan, $15,000 from grandmother, smaller amounts from 2 college friends who had since stopped responding to his calls. Total, $180,000. But one post stopped me cold, dated 3 weeks earlier, the week of my wedding. My sister just married some tech guy. Once the money hits, I'm golden. I read it 3 times. Once the money hits, I'm golden. He had posted that while I was signing my marriage certificate at the courthouse, while I was eating breakfast tacos in a parking lot with my husband and my one friend who showed up, while Mom was giving her light of our family speech at Megan's party. Tyler Snorts was sitting somewhere, tapping out a message to strangers on the internet, calculating what my marriage was worth to him. I screenshotted everything, saved the posts to a folder on my laptop, labeled it family meeting. Then I printed the forum post, the one about the money, slid it into the envelope next to my declaration of financial independence, evidence and boundary side by side. Thursday evening, 2 days out. I sat at the kitchen island of the new house with the lawyer's final draft. David Flores had reviewed the declaration one last time. No changes needed. The language was clear, the scope was airtight, and the notary seal was valid in our state. It was not a legal injunction. It was not a restraining order.
It was a written boundary.
A formal statement that I would not be anyone's financial safety net. I printed 4 copies. One for Mom, one for Tyler, one for Megan, one for Dad, who had called Mom the day before and said he was coming, too. I had not seen my father in 4 years. He had remarried, moved to a new state, and checked out of parenting around the same time I checked out of expecting it. Each copy went into a white envelope. I wrote each name on the front in black ink. Ethan came into the kitchen. He looked at the 4 envelopes lined up on the granite countertop. "Are you sure about this?" "I've been sure since the 28th RSVP. He nodded. He did not try to talk me out of it. He did not question the timing or the method. He just asked the question that a good partner asks, accepted my answer, and moved on. Rachel texted, "I can come Saturday if you need backup."
No. Irraplia.
This is mine. Last time I sent 42 envelopes and got nothing back. This time for envelopes, and I wanted nothing back. Different math, same family. I placed the folder of Tyler's forum screenshots next to the envelopes. Then I went to the living room, sat on the floor. The furniture was not arriving until Saturday morning, and looked out the window at nothing. Friday night. The house was empty except for a mattress on the bedroom floor and the marriage certificate on the entryway wall. I sat cross-legged in the living room with my phone. The screens cast a blue glow on the hardwood. I was scrolling through old photos, not intentionally. I had been looking for a receipt and somehow ended up in the camera roll from 2005. There I was, 11 years old, holding a science fair certificate, second place, regional competition. I was smiling so hard my eyes were almost closed. Behind me, nothing. No parent, no sibling, just a gymnasium wall and a table of juice boxes. That was the week Dad left. Mom was dealing with lawyers. Megan was at a sleepover. Tyler was 5 and with a neighbor. Nobody came to the science fair. I won second place and walked home alone. I kept scrolling. Every milestone photo from my teens was the same. Me alone, holding something I had earned. Dance recital programs for Megan filled the family albums. My photos lived only on my phone. I opened the family group chat. 112 unread messages since the IPO article dropped. I read the last 50. Megan organizing logistics for Saturday. Who was driving? What time? Did anyone need the address? Tyler asking if the house had a pool. Mom sharing an article about how to talk to family about money without making it awkward. Not one message about my wedding. Not one apology. Not one mention of the 42 cards. I almost called Mom. My thumb hovered over her name. Almost. I closed the phone. Went to bed on the mattress on the floor of a $3.8 million house. I was not angry anymore. That was the scariest part. I was just done. Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. The delivery truck arrived at 8:15. I had planned the timing deliberately. The furniture would be installed and arranged by 11 o'clock. The family meeting was at 1 o'clock. They would walk into a fully furnished, fully lived-in home. Not because I wanted to impress them, but because this was my home, and I was not going to apologize for it. The movers worked fast. Designer sectional in the living room. 10-seat dining table in the open-plan kitchen. Bookshelves, lamps, rugs. By 10:30, the house looked like it had been lived in for months. I showered and dressed. Navy blazer, white shirt, dark pants. Nothing flashy. Nothing casual. The kind of outfit you wear when you want to be taken seriously, and nothing else. At 11 o'clock, I placed the 4 envelopes on the dining table. One at each place setting. White against dark wood. Then, I set the folder with Tyler's forearm prints next to my seat. I walked to the entryway. The marriage certificate hung in morning light from the floor-to-ceiling window beside the door. The courthouse seal caught the sun. Ethan came downstairs in jeans and a button-down. He looked at the dining table. Looked at me. Want me to stay? Stay upstairs. I'll call you if I need you. He kissed my forehead and went back up. I heard the office door close. The house was ready. The envelopes were ready. The evidence was ready. And somewhere on the highway, my family was driving toward a version of me they had never met. The one who was done being flexible. I poured myself a glass of water, sat down at the head of the table, and waited. The doorbell rang at 1:07, 7 minutes late. Classic Overton. I opened the door. Mom stood in front wearing a floral blouse she reserved for occasions she wanted to control. Behind her, Megan in a fitted dress, Tyler in a wrinkled polo, and Dad, my father, standing on my porch for the first time in 4 years, hands in his pockets, looking like a man who had been dragged to a meeting he did not request. They stepped inside. I watched their faces as they crossed the threshold. Mom saw the entryway first, the vaulted ceiling, the natural stone floor. Then the living room opened up to the left, then the kitchen to the right, with the island and the 10-seat dining table, and the windows that went from floor to beam. Mom stopped walking. Her mouth opened, closed. Bianca, this is when did you? Megan said nothing. Her jaw was set, and her eyes moved across every surface like she was appraising a property. She looked at the kitchen fixtures, the countertops, the view. Tyler scanned the room the way someone scans a menu, looking for what he could take. Dad stood near the door. He had not made it past the entryway. I watched him look at the wall, at the marriage certificate, the courthouse seal, the date, March 15th. He stared at it for 3 full seconds, then looked away. He said nothing. Mom started to speak, something about how beautiful the house was, how proud she was, but I cut her off.
Sit down.
Let's talk about what you came here to talk about. I offered them water. Just water. I did not owe them a tour. They sat. I took the head of the table. The envelopes waited. My mother walked into a $3.8 million house and saw the marriage certificate from the courthouse she did not attend hanging in the entryway. She looked at it. She looked away. And she sat down at my dining table to ask me for money. What would you say to someone who treated your biggest day like it did not matter? Comment below. Mom cleared her throat. She had rehearsed this. Family helps family. That's what we've always believed. She folded her hands on the table like she was chairing a board meeting. Her voice was steady.
Practiced.
Warm in the way that warm can be a weapon. Tyler has been going through a difficult season. Some financial decisions that didn't pan out. It happens to a lot of young men. He's been working through it, but the numbers have gotten ahead of him. Financial decisions that didn't pan out. She said it like he had invested in a bad stock, not bet $18,000 on a single basketball game. We've all pitched in, she continued. I gave for my retirement $45,000. Megan contributed $20,000. Even your grandmother helped. $15,000 from her savings. She paused.
Looked at me.
Waiting for the math to land. The total shortfall is $180,000. And we thought since things seemed to be going so well for you and Ethan, maybe you could help close the gap. She said it without blinking. $180,000. She had just asked me for nearly $200,000 at a dining table I had owned for 3 hours. I picked up my legal pad. I wrote 3 numbers. 45, 20, 15. Drew a line. Wrote 180. And what would the money go towards specifically? Getting Tyler back on his feet. Clearing his obligations. A fresh start. Obligations to whom?
A beat.
Tyler shifted in his chair. Various creditors. Mom said. I set the pen down. I did not write that answer. I already knew it was a lie. Megan leaned forward. She had been waiting for her turn. B, I know we haven't been great about things, but Tyler is in real trouble. Like, serious trouble. And we're all just trying to figure out a way through this. I looked at her.
B.
She had not called me that in years. I hear you, Megan. She took my measured response as an opening. And, I mean, look at this house. Look at all this. She gestured at the kitchen, the windows, the everything. $180,000 it's a lot for us. But for you it's not exactly what? I'm just saying you married well. Some of us aren't that lucky. The room went quiet. Even Tyler looked up. Dad stared at the table. You married well. Some of us aren't that lucky. She said it like my career, my degree, my 14-hour days, my 4 years of climbing from junior developer to senior engineer, was a footnote. Like the house, the equity, the stability, were all things that had happened to me by accident of marriage rather than by a decade of work. And that word, lucky, as if luck had anything to do with eating breakfast tacos in a courthouse parking lot on the morning your entire family chose a birthday party over your wedding. I set my pen down on the legal pad. I looked at Megan. I worked 2 jobs through college. I graduated debt-free. I was employee number 7 at Ethan's company. I wrote code for the product that IPO'd. Lucky is not the word I would use. Megan blinked. She had no response rehearsed for that.
Good.
I opened the folder. The room shifted. Mom's eyes moved to the papers. Tyler's back straightened. Megan's hands went flat on the table. Before we continue, I said, I want to read something Tyler posted online 3 weeks ago. Tyler's head snapped up.
What?
I placed the printout on the table. Black ink on white paper. Forum handle visible at the top. Timestamp. Snorts. This is from a gambling forum. The post is dated March 15th. My wedding day. I read it aloud. My sister just married some tech guy. Once the money hits, I'm golden.
Silence.
Tyler's face went pale. Not embarrassed. Caught. Where did you get that? His voice cracked on the last word. It doesn't matter where I got it. What matters is that while I was getting married in a courthouse with one friend as a witness, you were on the internet calculating what my marriage was worth to you. Mom reached for the printout. I let her read it. That's out of context, she said. The context is that Tyler owes $180,000 in gambling debts. Not bad investments. Not financial decisions that didn't pan out. Gambling. Online poker. Sports betting. A private loan from someone he calls D. And snorts, he has been counting on my husband's money since before the IPO paperwork was even filed. Tyler stood halfway up. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Sit down, Tyler. He sat. I understand perfectly. I understand that you've borrowed $45,000 from Mom's retirement, $20,000 from Megan, $15,000 from Grandma, and smaller amounts from friends who no longer take your calls. I know the full number. I know the full story. The family group chat, the same one where they never mentioned my wedding. I had read every message. I just never responded. Dad spoke for the first time. Bianca, let's all calm down here. We're family. Let's not say things we can't take back. I turned to him. He was sitting at the far end of the table, arms crossed, wearing the same uncomfortable expression he had worn in my entire childhood. The face of a man who wanted to be anywhere else. Dad, you left when I was 11. You didn't come to my high school graduation. You didn't come to my college graduation. You didn't come to my wedding. And now you're here at my dining table because Tyler needs money, and someone thought your presence would add weight to the request. He flinched, looked down. I know I haven't been around, he said. I'm trying to. I'm not blaming you.
I'm stating facts.
The room was quiet. Dad had no leverage and he knew it. You cannot mediate a family conflict when you have been absent from the family for 2 decades. You cannot ask for calm when you were never present for the storms. Mom jumped back in. She was not going to let the momentum die. This isn't about the past, Bianca.
This is about right now.
Tyler could lose everything. He could. There are people who are not patient. If you understand what I'm saying, this isn't just about money. This is about safety. I heard the implication. Debt collectors. Maybe worse. Mom was escalating the stakes, hoping fear would do what guilt could not. I picked up the legal pad, wrote safety with a question mark. If Tyler's safety is at risk, I said, then he needs professional help. A counselor, a program, not a check from his sister. Mom's mouth tightened. That was not the answer she came for. Then the tears came. Diane Overton folded forward in her chair and pressed her hands to her face and cried. Not the performative tears I had seen at holidays when she wanted someone to agree with her. These were different. These were jagged and low and ugly. I know I wasn't perfect, she said through her hands. I know I leaned on Megan more. I know I should have come to the courthouse. I should have been there. For a moment I saw her. Not the director. Not the manipulator. Just a 58-year-old woman sitting in her daughter's dining room, wearing a blouse she had ironed that morning, realizing that the math of her life was not adding up. Tyler is my son, she said. He's sick, Bianca. Gambling is an illness. He needs treatment, and he needs his family to not give up on him. I believed the tears. I believed that she was scared, and that she was tired, and that she had spent the last year watching her retirement dissolve into Tyler's addiction. Then she looked up, wiped her eyes, and added, and if you can't do this for Tyler, do it for me. I can't sleep. My retirement is gone. If you don't help, I'll have to sell the house. There it was, the pivot, from genuine pain to leveraged guilt.
Classic Diane.
Her tears were real. I believed that. But real tears and honest intentions are not the same thing.
She was not asking me to help Tyler.
She was asking me to absorb the consequences of a problem she had enabled for years. I had seen this script before, the tears, the guilt, the escalation. It snorts was the same playbook she had used when I was 12 and she needed me to skip my own school play so I could babysit Tyler. I was done running that play. I stood up. The chair legs scraped against the hardwood.
Everyone looked at me.
I walked to the kitchen island where the 4 white envelopes sat in a row. I picked them up, carried them back to the table, placed one in front of each person. Diane, Megan, Tyler, Dad. Open them, I said. Clear his throat, Tyler poked at his envelope like it might be hot. What is this? This is my answer. Mom reached for hers first. Her hands were still shaking from the tears. She opened the flap and pulled out the single sheet of paper. I let the silence hold while they read. Before you open those, I said. Some of them had already started reading. I want to say one thing. They looked up. I sent 42 save-the-date cards for my wedding. Every single one came back declined. Not because you were busy, not because of scheduling conflicts, because Mom called each of you, every aunt, every uncle, every cousin, and told them the wedding was postponed. Diane's face drained of color. I never. Aunt Linda told me 3 weeks after the wedding. She said you called her personally and said we were pushing the date back. 2 other relatives mentioned the same thing. My own mother called 40 people and erased my wedding from the calendar so that Megan's birthday party could have a full house. Nobody spoke. So, when you sit at my table and ask me for $180,000 because family helps family, I need you to understand that I do not have the version of family that you are describing. That family does not exist. It never did. I sat back down. Now read the letter. They read. I watched their faces as the words landed. Mom's eyes moved slowly, line by line. Tyler skimmed, then went back and reread the first paragraph. Megan held the paper like it was a medical result. The letter was clean and direct. David Flores had done excellent work. Declaration of Financial Independence. I read aloud for the room. I, Bianca Overton, hereby declare the following. I will not co-sign any loan, mortgage, or financial obligation for any member of the Overton family. I will not provide monetary gifts exceeding $100 per calendar year. I will not bail out, absorb, or refinance any debt, consumer, gambling, or otherwise. I will not serve as financial guarantor, reference, or collateral contact. The notary seal sat in the bottom right corner. The lawyer's letterhead ran across the top.
My signature in black ink.
Tyler threw his copy on the table. You can't be serious. I have never been more serious. Mom stared at the page. Her tears had dried. What replaced them was something harder. This is a legal document? Against your own family? I looked at her, held her gaze. This is a boundary, Mom. Something you never taught me. So, I taught myself. She set the paper down. Slowly, precisely, like she was deciding what to do with the next sentence. Megan was still reading. Her lips moved silently. When she reached the bottom, she folded the letter back into the envelope and placed it on the table. Nobody spoke for what felt like a full minute. The only sound was the refrigerator humming and the faint noise of a lawnmower somewhere down the street. A boundary in writing, notarized. The first one I had ever said in this family. The first one that could not be flexible. Tyler moved first. He stood up hard. The chair tipped backward and hit the floor with a crack that echoed through the open kitchen. Megan flinched. Dad pressed back in his seat. You owe us. Tyler's voice came out loud and ragged. You owe us. You lived in that house rent-free until you were 18. Mom fed you, clothed you, kept a roof over your head. And now you sit in your little mansion with your tech bro husband and you think you're better than us? I did not stand. I did not raise my voice. I lived in a room above the garage. I paid utilities from age 15. I have the receipts. Oh, the receipts. Of course you have the receipts. Perfect Bianca with her receipts and her lawyer and her little declaration. You know what you are? You're cold. You're ice cold. I am clear. You're a sellout. You got rich, and you forgot where you came from. I remember exactly where I came from, Tyler. That's why I wrote the letter. He stepped toward me. One step, then another. His hands were at his sides, fingers curled. A sound from upstairs. Footsteps. Then Ethan appeared at the top of the staircase. He did not come down.
He did not speak.
He stood at the railing, arms at his sides, and looked at Tyler. Tyler stopped. He looked up at Ethan, looked back at me. The math was simple. He was in someone else's house asking for money he had no right to from a sister he had not bothered to support, and her husband was standing at the top of the stairs watching every word. Tyler sat down. He picked up the fallen chair first, then he sat. He did not speak again. Megan had been watching everything with her arms crossed.
Processing.
Calculating. When Tyler went quiet, she filled the space. You know what, Bianca? You always acted like you were above us, like you were too good for this family, like being quiet and competent made you better than everyone in the room. I moved out at 18, worked 2 jobs, and paid my own way through college. That's not above. That's alone. And now you have this house and this husband, and you can't even. She stopped herself. Finish that sentence. A pause. She looked at the table, at the letter, at the forum print. Help your own brother. I tried to invite my own family to my wedding, Megan. You moved your birthday party to my wedding day. The venue that could only do that date, you booked it 2 weeks after I sent save the dates. I checked with the venue. They had availability the entire month. Megan's face changed. She had not expected me to check. That's not what happened.
It is exactly what happened.
You saw the date. You chose it deliberately. And Mom helped you fill the room by telling everyone my wedding was postponed. Nobody contradicted me. The facts were there. The forum post, the RSVPs, Aunt Linda's confirmation, the venue records. There was nothing left to deny. Megan sat back. For the first time since she walked through the door, she had nothing to say. The golden child who had never been without an audience had finally run out of script. I did not push further. I did not gloat. I just let the silence do what silence does in a room full of people who have been caught. Mom was the last one standing. She had composed herself. The tears were gone. Her posture was straight. Her voice steady. This was the Diane who had managed a household of 4 on a single income. The Diane who had kept every plate spinning for 30 years. And now every plate was on the floor. When you were little, she said, I worked 3 jobs to keep that roof over your head. I didn't sleep for years. I made sacrifices you can't imagine, Bianca. And this piece of paper, this is how you repay me. You worked 3 jobs. That's true. And I'm grateful. But gratitude is not a blank check, Mom. I gave everything I had to this family. You gave everything to Megan. You gave attention to Tyler. You gave me the expectation that I would always figure it out on my own. And I did. That's not a complaint. That's just what happened. She leaned forward. If you send us away with nothing, if this is your final answer, I will never speak to you again. The ultimate weapon. The nuclear option. The thing Diane Overton had held over every person in her life for decades. The threat of her absence. I looked at her. Really looked. You didn't speak to me on my wedding day. You didn't speak to me for 3 weeks after. You spoke to me when you needed money. So, with respect, Mom, that threat doesn't carry the weight you think it does. Her face crumbled. Not the performed breakdown from earlier. Something smaller. Quieter. A flash of real recognition. The kind that passes through a person's eyes before they push it away. Then she pushed it away. You'll regret this. Maybe. But I'll regret it on my own terms. Tyler left first. He grabbed his envelope off the table, crumpled it into his jacket pocket, and walked out without looking at anyone. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the window beside it. Megan stood. She pulled her purse onto her shoulder and started toward the door. Then she stopped in the entryway. She was looking at the marriage certificate. You know, she said without turning around, that dress you wore at the courthouse? I saw the photo Rachel posted. $89. A pause. It actually looked beautiful. It was the most honest thing Megan had ever said to me. No angle, no performance, just a sister looking at a piece of paper on a wall and saying something true. And it came too late. She left without waiting for a response. Dad stood slowly. He buttoned his jacket, a habit from the years when he wore suits to work, before the divorce, before Oregon, before Pam.
He walked to me.
I'm sorry, Bianca, for all of it. He did not specify what all of it meant. Maybe he did not know himself. He left. Mom was last. She stood at the table for a long moment, her hand resting on the back of the chair. Then she walked to the entryway. She stopped at the marriage certificate, reached toward it, touched the edge of the gold frame. She stared at it. My name, Ethan's name, March 15th. She put her hand down, straightened her blouse, and walked out without saying a word. The door clicked shut. The house was silent. Sunlight still came through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The lawnmower down the street had stopped. I stood in the entryway and listened to the quiet. The dining table had 4 chairs pushed back at odd angles. 4 envelopes opened, scattered. The folder with Tyler's forum posts was still open to the page I had read aloud. I sat down in my chair, the one at the head of the table. The glass of water I had poured before they arrived was still full. I drank it. Ethan came downstairs. He sat in the chair next to mine, the one nobody had used. He did not ask what happened. He could read it in the room. It's done, I said. He reached over and took my hand. We sat like that for a while. I reached into my wallet. The save-the-date card, the last one, number 42. I had kept it with me since March. Cream-colored cardstock, slightly bent at the corners. My own handwriting fading where it had rubbed against my driver's license. I looked at it. The address, the date, the small heart I had drawn next to our names because I had thought that was what you did when you were happy. I folded it in half, opened the white envelope that held my copy of the declaration, the 5th copy, the one I had kept for myself. I slipped the save-the-date inside. Old wound, meet new boundary. I closed the envelope, wrote my own name on the front, set it on the table. Are you okay? Ethan asked. I will be. He nodded. He believed me because I had never lied to him. The 4 chairs would need to be pushed back in. The table would need to be wiped down. The printer paper with Tyler's sworn confessions would need to be shredded. But that could wait. For now, I sat in my house with my husband in the quiet I had earned. 6 months later, Tyler entered a state-funded rehabilitation program in August. Not because of the family meeting, because a court ordered it after he defaulted on a personal loan and the lender pursued legal action. The program was free. Bianca's money was never involved. He was 4 months in when I last checked. I did not check often. Mom sold the house in September, downsized to a 1-bedroom condo 40 minutes from where we grew up. She snorts, told the extended family that I had turned my back on the family during our hardest time. Some of them believed her. Some of them didn't. 3 cousins reached out privately, separate messages, weeks apart, and said variations of the same thing. I would have come to the courthouse if I had known it wasn't postponed. I thanked them. I did not say more. Megan texted once in October. 6 words. I shouldn't have moved the party. I read it. I did not respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I had not decided. Dad sent a card on my birthday in November. Just a card. No money. No long letter. Just happy birthday, Bianca. I hope you're well.
Dad.
It was the first birthday card he had sent in 20 years. I kept it. Ethan and I settled into the house. We hosted Rachel for dinners on Fridays. We adopted a dog, a terrier mix named Biscuit who chewed through 2 couch cushions in the first week. My lockup period ended in October, and I diversified my portfolio with the help of a financial advisor who is not a family member. The family group chat still existed on my phone. I never unmuted it. I never deleted it. I just stopped opening it. The marriage certificate still hung in the entryway. Every morning, I walked past it on my way to the kitchen. Most mornings, I did not even notice it anymore. That felt right. People ask me if I regret it. The courthouse. The letter. Not helping Tyler. I don't. My mother taught me one true thing, even if she never meant to. She said it on the phone the day I told her Megan had taken my wedding date. She said it like a fact, like a description of who I was and would always be. You're flexible, Bianca. You always have been. She was right. I was flexible enough to leave home at 18 and build a life from nothing. Flexible enough to marry the man I loved in a courthouse with one friend and no flowers and feel no shame about it. Flexible enough to sit across from 4 people who had erased my wedding and hand them a document that said, in clear legal language, that I was done. And flexible enough to know that walking away was not cruelty. It was not revenge. It was not bitterness. It was the first honest thing I had ever done for myself. 42 cards, 1 courthouse for envelopes, and a marriage certificate that cost $27 hanging in the entryway of a house I built with my own hands.
That is not a sad story.
That is a boundary.